Welcome to the Stogie Geek Show, episode 103. This episode is sponsored by Mr. J Savannah Smoke Shop. They have an outstanding selection of premium handmade cigars. And by the Havana Cigar Club, a great place to enjoy drinking a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon by clicking on the HCC logo on our website. And by Debonair Cigars. Visit stogiegeeks.com/debonair for a list of retailers who carry Debonair. Buy some today and get a little more Debonair. And by Ocean State Cigars. Try the J. Grotto series, including the Connecticut Shade Silk and limited edition J. Grotto Reserva lines. Visit them on the web at oceanstatecigars.com. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Stogie Geek Show. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, joined to my right by Mr. Mark Jr.
What up?
What's going on? On the lines via Skype, we've got Mr. Will Cooper.
Greetings, everybody.
Yes, it's nice to be back in the saddle on time, as Zedman points out in the chat room, which is just fabulous. We were just as surprised as you were, Mark Jr. says, yes. It's great to be here. We've got a fantastic show for you, as always. We're doing a smoke whatever the hell you want kind of show tonight, which really just stems from lack of planning, as Will and Stogie Santa were at IPCPR. So
What's that?
it's some show in Las Vegas.
Coop, can you elaborate? What's IPCPR?
What's IPCPR about? What is?
What's that? We love Stogie Santa right now. So for folks who don't know, it's the International Premium Cigar and Pipe Retailers Annual Convention and Trade Show. So it's a chance where they get in, they lay out the agenda for the year, and then there's a trade show where the companies showcase their products.
Very nice. We're going to do a little recap of IPCPR, followed by a segment on what we've been smoking. And I already smoked. I smoked one sample from IPCPR so far.
What was that?
I don't know. I'll talk about it in the Stogies of the Week. It's some brand that's owned by Davidoff. And I, for whatever reason, don't have it in my list. I got it on my phone. So when we get to that segment, we will talk about it. I'm still finishing off my God of Fire Series B. This was like the Toro size, I believe, Toro-ish size, Series B 2011. These cigars are just so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
There's like this almost, I wouldn't say cherry sweetness, but it's like a dark fruity sweetness to them that just emanates from that wrapper. It is just
everything about him's really good.
Yeah, the Robusto is my favorite size in this.
Yeah, the smaller of the two.
The smaller ones, definitely.
Yeah, it's like 52, I think.
I'm having a tough time hearing Mark Jr. in my headphones. I don't know if you want to crank up his.
Does he have me in the cans?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you may want to crank him up a
This
little bit.
microphone's a pain in the ass.
You just have a large head, dude. I mean that in the nicest way possible, but
You have a freakish head.
it's not freakish.
Please don't be
It's just-
offended.
It's proportional to the rest of your body. Not to say that. All right, you know what? I'm going to shut up now. Mark was a football player. He's just, I'll give you a hug in between segments. How's that?
Mouth hug?
Wow. Alrighty then. Yes, we're very close here on the Stogie Geek Show.
Good friends.
So what did you light up?
You know what I lit up. You
I
gave
know,
it
but
to
tell
me.
our listeners that
It's a 1964 Padron Pyramid. Yeah.
that one's at least 3, 4.
I remember when you bought
maybe-
this box. It was
Right.
shortly after I met you, so that was 3 years ago at least. Right?
Yeah, it had a year or so on it when I bought it, according to Stogie Santa, because I bought it at Mr. J Savannah Smoke Shop. So I'm curious to see what they're doing with age.
I mean, this is my favorite 64, I think.
Absolutely. Hands down for me.
Yeah. These are fantastic. So I'm excited to smoke it. I literally just lit it up, though. So.
Excellent. Mr. Will Cooper, what did you light up over there?
I just am in the process of finishing lighting up the new Hoya Red, which is a Hoya de Nicaragua's new cigar they unveiled at the trade show this year. It's a Nicaraguan Puro, featuring a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper. This cigar got a lot of good talk from people who smoked it either before the show or at the show. So I'm really curious. This is the first time I'm lighting it up.
Nice. Very cool. Now, Will, you're just actually right off the plane,
Right.
a couple of hours off the plane from IPCPR. So I wanted to go through, ease us in slow, and then we'll get into. I can't believe you don't have more crazy Stogie Santa stories, but.
There aren't as many Stogies. I was surprised too. He was really on his best behavior, but there may be stories when I wasn't with him that we're gonna have to get out of him. He might not have disclosed those to me.
This is true. I think he's still on the plane or just coming off the plane now, which is why he's not here with us tonight. So,
yeah.
So what were some of the major highlights? We'll start there, and then I've got specific questions for you, Will.
Okay, so in terms of, let's just talk first about the business of the trade show, and then we'll talk about some of the highlights as far as what product goes. The business of the trade show, when the floor opens, the idea is it's not, for folks that don't know, this is not a consumer expo. This is a show where retailers go to meet the manufacturers, and they go to do business and place orders. The perception this year was that there were less people on the floor than in previous years. And there were two schools of thought for that. One is saying there really weren't less people. It was just that they had more floor space. The other was that they're saying, you talk to the retailers, they're saying, no, there was less traffic. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Paul Joyle, who, is Mr. Jason Bonnet's Smoke Shop and Ocean State Cigars. And I think it was very clear that from and Stogie Santa, there was less traffic this year. Mm-hmm. So no one could really explain that part. And to me, I subscribe to the latter part. I think there was less traffic, but there were certain booths that always had their activity there, as far as that goes. The other big part of the show, basically hookah and vapes were very big at the show this year, and that's been a big debate in the tobacco industry right now as far as if they belong there or if they don't belong there. But some of the feelings were this year, I think that they were a little more intrusive this year than in previous years, where in other words, they were kind of soliciting, like many times you're walking down an aisle and they kind of run up to you and ask you to try your product, where I really didn't see that too much from you don't really see that too much from the cigar manufacturing end. So there was some people about that, but overall, I think this was one of the better trade shows executed from start to finish. And I think what people need to realize is this trade show was put on by the IPCPR board, and they didn't have a CEO all year. And the people who put this trade show on don't have trade show experience. So they did a fantastic job, and they really should be commended for that.
Nice.
Okay.
Just because I'm curious, I attend lots of trade shows for my day job and stuff. What were some of the booths like?
The booths tend to be, they divide them into what I'd say small, medium, and large. So a small one is basically you have a table and maybe a banner and a couple of chairs, and they take up 1 to 2 spots on the layout. Then you have these medium booths, which there's some level of structure or construction around it. Maybe there's some walls there where, and they stand out. And then you have the large ones, and these are kind of like big booths that have booths within them, and they have very elaborate displays. And a good example of that is Drew Estate this year had a big booth where they actually had a simulation of the Brooklyn Bridge in there.
Wow.
And I think I should Brooklyn or Manhattan Bridge, but they had a bridge in there. And they actually had
Aren't you from New York?
You could go up, and it was like some semi-private space where if a rep needed to meet with someone, you could do it. So there was, a lot of elaborate things in there. So and they have a booth competition where they judge the booths. So it's kind of a competitive thing, and they judge it small, medium, large. So basically, it gives everyone a fair chance there.
Aren't you from New York, Will?
I am.
Okay.
But I always mix, and I know you're gonna call me out on that. I always mix up which one Drew Estate uses, and I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge. But I'm gonna get killed on this now. I know that.
New
Yorkers for you.
Yeah.
So let's get talking about the cigars.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned Drew Estate, so let's start there.
Okay, so as far as what Drew Estate goes this year, the big launch was Herrera Esteli Norteño. So that's Willie Herrera's new. That's his Maduro that he did with the San Andreas wrapper, and it's the box press. So I would say of the new lines of what's new as far as what blends go, that was the big thing that was on display there, and that was a long time in coming as far as that goes.
I remember getting samples for that a long time ago, Paul. You remember that?
I think so. Yeah.
When he came
I think
to
I do have a
Mr.
sample
J's.
for that. Yes.
I do have. I have. I got two. I have one still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was expected. I think a lot of people knew that one was coming before the trade show. But there were a couple of other areas that Drew Estate I think was very interesting. So there was no new Liga product this year, no new Underground product. So those lines kind of stayed as is there. My Uzi Weighs a Ton got a pretty big makeover. They've redone the packaging, and it looks a little more slick right now. It's a little more sleek. You know, it's away from, you know, the brown bags now have, they don't just look like they were kind of written on, so to speak, or just kind of ink stamped. They have a much more sleeker look, and they've even changed the band slightly to match that look. And there's a picture in the Stogie feed for this week. Actually, if you look in the Stogie feed under IPCPR, you'll see pictures of that Drew Estate Muat repackaging. They're also calling it Muat. They're kind of not calling it My Uzi Weighs a Ton. They're calling it Muat, and they added a new size to it, which is called the Nightcrawler. And the Nightcrawler is a 4.5 by 50, so it's a Robusto size they added.
Gotcha.
I'm assuming Nightcrawler goes along with bait fish.
Yeah, and it's meant to, and it's exactly meant, Mark Jr., to fall in that because they're using the bait fish blend for that. So it was deliberate.
So did you smoke the? Of course, True Estate's known for their flying pig size. They got a Kentucky Fire Cured flying pig. Did you smoke that?
No, I didn't. If there were samples going out to it, they didn't go my way. They did have that on display there, though.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the box at least there, and as well as they had several line they added 3 regular production line extensions to the Kentucky Fire Cured.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Now I heard the Undercrown Flying Pig's going to make an American debut here as well.
Yeah, it's supposed to land. I think it's going to be more. I think the Flying Pigs will be more limited. I think people were. I mean, it was only a matter of time before the Underground Flying Pigs were going to land. So I have one and I haven't smoked it yet. So I was gifted one about a month ago. So I'm kind of looking forward to smoking it. It really looks good.
What's
the other thing I'll just say about Drew Estate real
ahead.
quick? They made a big push into pipes. Not only did they launch a couple lines of pipe tobacco, but they came out with. They have a Japanese company called Tsuge, which is making these really kind of cutting edge pipes, very modern. They're definitely going after a younger audience with these types of pipes. So those were on display, and Drew Estate's actually distributing this Japanese company's pipes throughout. So all their pipes are distributing, but the company did 3 special pipes branded Drew Estate with this modern look, and there's some pictures on Cigar Coop of those if folks are interested in seeing those.
And I heard there was a female hand carving pipes at the show.
I heard it. I didn't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I heard she was rather attractive as well.
Yeah, I heard rave reviews about the pipe carving lady. I'll just leave it at that.
Was this at Drew Estate?
I don't think she was actually carving. I think she was
okay.
like a type girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A booth babe.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Will, what's one of your most anticipated releases you saw at IPCPR?
No doubt, it's the top 2. I'm going to give you my top 5. I'll go. Let's go in reverse order. How does that sound?
Sure.
Okay. So number 5 is Jericho Hill by Crowned Heads, and just simply because of the fact I think Crowned Heads is still hot. I think the fact that it's a regular production coming out of Pepin right now. It's using a Mexican San Andreas, which Crowned Heads hasn't used, and it's a hot wrapper.
What's it called,
A lot of people were talking about that cigar, and they probably did very good sales-wise.
What was it called again, sorry?
Jericho Hill,
Okay.
and it's something. It's out of a Johnny Cash song.
Gotcha.
Which so it kind of ties in. Johnny Cash lived in Tennessee. Crowned Heads is in Tennessee. John Huber is a music fan, and uh, you know, Johnny Cash was with music, so they kind of tied all that together with that.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was that was good. Other than the fact that John Huber interrupted my conversation with Pete Johnson, that's another story. But you know, I still think he's got a red hot stick.
Is that
and a
so?
lot of people were talking. I haven't smoked it, but people were talking about going into the show. They wanted to get that.
You
stick.
really just say that?
What's the size of his red hot stick?
Red hot stick. I did. I said that, didn't I?
Woo!
All right,
All
a
right.
few hours off the plane here.
I don't want to know the details about the red hot stick, but
I do.
Okay, so let's go. Let's kind of progress.
So that's
number
5.
4 I had is Ashton Symmetry. Ashton, a lot of people have Ashton in the humidors. A lot of people have been waiting for a new release under the Ashton umbrella. This is a blend which is using Nicaraguan tobacco for the first time in an Ashton branded cigar. And from talking to the retailers were telling me they were having trouble getting samples later in the week. So, and they said a lot of people just seem to be very interested in that cigar. So Ashton, we don't think of it maybe from the boutique industry, but a lot of, I think, stuff that lies on the shelves, retailers do, that's a regular brand. And the fact that there's something new there is, I think says something.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Number 3, I have it as Roma Craft's Neanderthal. And, Roma Craft's hot right now. So I'm not gonna say red hot, but they're hot. It's the first new line that the first new thing that they've released that's regular production in a couple of years. They've done a bunch of limited one-offs. This is an interesting blend because Skip talked about this on the show, but he's intending to make a very strong stick, something that he was hoping that Cro-Magnon would be. But what happened is when he was starting to do it, when he was starting to try to blend a strong stick, he talked about basically pumping it up with Ligero, but he realizes that doesn't always work. So what he's done is he's taken a leaf from Pennsylvania that naturally has a higher concentration of nicotine. And that's what he's using to amp up the strength of that. Stogie Sander and I were at the booth and talked to Skip. We have not smoked our Neanderthal yet. But we do have it, and we're very curious to see about it. I've heard good feedback from the people who did smoke it as well. And I think it says a lot for Skip as a small company that a lot of people were talking about that stick. It's just something, hey, we're going to gravitate to.
Cool.
And then I'll go 1 and 2, very easy. It was the Padrones. So the Padrones, this was their year. It's the 50th anniversary, and there's a few cigars out there that are going to make their way. So they're going to have a new family reserve, which is going to be I'm going to get the sizes wrong, but it's about a 5.5, 5.25 by 54 box press. And it's going to be in the Maduro and the Natural. So that's going to be the first new of the family reserves in 3 years. That they haven't done one since the 85th.
What are they calling it?
Those are expected later this year.
Are they calling it the 88th?
They're calling it
50th.
No. They're calling it the
this is the 50th.
The 50th.
Okay, yeah, because the 46 came out, so this will be the 50th.
Yeah, what they did is the 46 was 2010, and then 2011 they didn't do a 47, they did an 85th.
Right. Yep.
Yep. And now they're going back, and that was because of Jose O. Padrone's birthday. Now,
85th birthday.
A little sidebar before I get to 1. I did not see Jose Padrone there. I was told he was not there, but I don't have confirmation on that. The other person who was definitely not there was Avo, which was the first time as well. And Avo definitely was under the weather from what I heard. He did a video message starts at the Davidoff. And just in general, I could say the vibe of not having those two there could be felt at the show.
Yeah. For sure. So the new family reserve from Padron will be a 50th anniversary. And what did you say the size was in a box press?
I'm pulling it up right now.
It is a 5.25 by 50.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, 5.25 by 54.
So almost like a Robusto-sized box press from Padron, which they've never done in a family reserve before.
Not let you count the 85th was pretty close to that.
Yeah, the 85th is a little smaller. I picture the 85th smaller. I don't know the exact size of the 85th.
Yeah, it's 5 by 54. 5 by 54 is the size.
Okay.
Yep. That's what I know.
I got
Yeah.
that.
So that was so there's supposed to be a Maduro and a natural. I was told, but they only had the Maduro on display, and I did not get the photo up there as of yet. I kind of went there later in the week when the boost kind of mellowed down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings us to number one, which is the Padron 50 years, which this is pretty stunning as far as what you're going to see with this cigar. It's got a very elaborate humidor associated with it. So what happens is you're going to see this big long humidor that is very elegant. I mean, it's meant to be a humidor. It looks like it looks. I don't want to say it looks like a chest. It's wide. It's wide, and it's got a cigar in there that is kind of has a little bit of the Millennium feel to it. It looked like, I have to get the exact sizes of that, but it looked like it was about a 6 by 52 or 6.5 by 52 in there. Now here's the thing: they're producing 1,000 of these humidors, and they have not set pricing of this yet.
Yikes!
But they're talking the pricing $5,000 for one of these humidors that contain 50 cigars. So you guys do the math on that. That's not going to be a cheap cigar.
Wow.
Yeah.
You would have to think that the humidor plays a part of it as well.
Well, yeah, the humidor, you have to think, and I think people are going to buy, they're making
because you're going to be able to sell the humidor at the end.
They're going to be something special. And, this is something that's a collector's piece, and the cigars will probably be sought after. I do know retailers who placed orders. I'm assuming they sold out of these. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But it's got everything. It's got the humidification gauges on it. It's got a place, I think, for a humidification device in there. It was like I said, it was in a glass cabinet. You couldn't touch it or feel it. But they had one on display. And then the cigars themselves are numbered, kind of, just like most of the Padrones are.
So what are you saying? They're $50 a stick?
What was that?
They'd break out to be $100 a stick.
What?
Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, it's 5,000 with 50 cigars.
What did you say? 5,000?
5,000 for a humidor of 50.
For a humidor of 50.
Yeah.
$100 a cigar?
I think that's what we're looking at.
No. Whoa.
Yeah.
What the frig? What if I really like that cigar?
Tough shit.
It's like the damn Davidoff Salamone.
But times 2.
Yeah, I could get 2 Davidoff Salamones.
Yeah, they also had some. Accessories.
You could get
DuPont
105
lighters
Vegas.
with the 50th anniversary in there as well. It really look nice, and I don't think they're going to carry a cheap price tag either.
Yeah.
But it's called Padron 50 Years was the name on the box, and there was supposed, from what I heard, they're targeting a late year release of it.
Gotcha.
Wow. $100. That's going to annoy me. How much was a Millennium when they came out? Do you remember? I have no idea. I don't remember.
They were $100.
Yeah.
They are now.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Like I said,
Yeah.
the 5,000. I'm pretty sure there's 50 in there. So that 5,000 number, everyone was talking about that. I heard someone say they may lower it to 4,500, but again, that's the range we're looking at for this.
Oh, they'd be so kind as to make them $90 a piece instead.
Yeah, give you a little break there.
Yikes. It's true. This is true. Alrighty. Let's talk about Debonair.
Okay, and first of all, I got to say, I met Phil Zenke for the first time in person, and the guy is absolutely
never met Phil.
a genuine person. How you've seen him on the air is how you meet him in person. He's very debonair. He was walking around with this supper club jacket.
Did you notice his watch, by the way?
Yes.
Because the man rolls with like 5 watches when he goes on vacation.
Yeah, exactly. But he had this supper club smoking jacket that he wore one night, and inside the lining, it's got the Debonair logo kind of all over it, and you can see that this is not some. This was custom made for him. You could see that.
He didn't buy it
Very
at
Debonair.
he didn't
I
buy it
said
at
you gotta
J.C.
get
Penney. You're
replicas
saying
for the Stogie Geeks is what I told him.
he didn't buy it at J.C. Penney.
No, he didn't buy the JC Penney. I can shit. Phil's rolling with the big guys on that one. Yeah, I'm sure he has Taylor do this one.
That's hilarious.
But so Debonair, I tried the Maduro, and it's in one of my smokes of the week. Phil gave me the Toro to smoke, and so and you guys have smoked the Maduro or no?
I have not.
I think we did on the
Okay.
show.
Okay, so here's my take on it. So basically what Phil did is he put a Connecticut broadleaf on the Debonair blend, is what he told me. He didn't really do much in terms of changes to it. And basically what you got out of it was exactly what you would expect from putting a Connecticut broadleaf on it. So you get that sweetness, that coffee type of flavor from the broadleaf wrapper. But then there's that Debonair steak or Jew flavor mixed right in there. And it is very unique, is all I can say. It's those two put together, and it was a very enjoyable cigar. I mean, I like from Stogie Santa's telling me I got to smoke it in the Sagitta. And
Yeah,
which I
haven't-
not yet, but
I
he's
haven't
telling me
smoked
the
in the
Sagitta is
Sagitta.
the best size, which he doesn't say that necessarily on the Habano line.
No, he
But
doesn't say that at all. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it was hard to top that Toro. That was, and Phil's a sponsor of the show, and I know I understand, but that cigar, I'm telling you, was tops of it. I know that Phil gave the cigar to another media person, and that other media person who had never smoked a Debonair before was blown away by it. So, it's not, I'm just saying, what I tell folks is when that cigar comes out, you need to try it, and then tell me if we're right or wrong is the thing. But I think it's a very good cigar.
So does it taste like chocolate-covered prime rib?
Chocolate-covered prime rib. It's the best way to put it. I mean, it had
Sounds good.
that fatty meat. You kind of just feel it, and it's a little that sizzle, but there's more sweetness coming off that wrapper. So Stogie Santa was off at the pool, right? When I was with Phil, right? He was, yeah.
And you said he was
108
well
degree heat,
behaved.
right?
Yeah.
Stogie Santa was not well behaved at a
well-behaved.
pool.
No
Come
way.
on,
Come
get out
on
of
now.
here.
So I didn't go. I said it's 108 degrees. I'm like, basically, I'm gonna be dehydrated. I was not going out there in 108 degrees, right? So I just there's a place where a lot of us just convened in the Palazzo, and smoked, and I happened to be there, and so Phil comes in and we start talking, and he gives me the cigar, and I start texting Stogie Santa, and he's just like, I said, you got to get over here and watch me smoke this, and he's like, oh, I'm having fun at the pool, so who knows what's going on there.
Being well behaved.
Yeah,
I'm
being
sure.
well behaved. Yeah.
Stogie Santa was well behaved.
No,
I mean,
we
unless
don't
there's
believe you.
stories that I'm not hearing.
Not buying it.
Not buying it.
Not buying it.
He may have been well behaved in front of me.
I still don't buy it.
Yeah. I don't know about this.
Tell us
No,
about
he didn't trip over anything. No.
It wasn't
Yeah.
Stogie.
Now I know you're full of shit.
Now I know he didn't lose his phone or his laptop or something. No.
No, I mean, there was nothing like that. There's nothing I could think of like that. That's really an epic, funny story with that.
He clearly bribed you.
No, either that or like I said, when he disappeared from me, there was shenanigans going on, maybe.
Maybe. Tell us about Viaje Cash Rounded.
Okay. So that was one of my smokes of the week. So I talked with Andre. And actually it was kind of funny. Andre was right across from the Ocean State booth. So I was over there quite a bit just because I was over, obviously, with Stogie Santa. So the Cash is a Maduro blend that Andre did. And it was actually, so the deal is with the Cash is he sent that out actually to the retailers right before the show is when those were mailed out. So I think people didn't even have to go put the order in there. If they're regular merchants of Viaje, they'll get that shipment of that. And he named it the Cash because of, there's a room in Nicaragua where they store tobacco and it's aging and it has the name the Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's important about this cigar and one other cigar that Andre did called the Collaboration is that these are Andre's first cigars being made in Nicaragua. So, Andres, for a long time, everything's been coming out of Races Cubanas. Earlier this year, he had the Plata come out of Miami. Now these two cigars are coming out of the Casa Fernandez factory in Nicaragua right now. Now Andre, he's always putting the element of surprise. So when you get these boxes of 25, apparently at the bottom of the box there's a hidden tray. It's where you have to kind of pull it up, and when you pull it up, there are 5 additional cigars, and they are box pressed. So I didn't smoke the box press yet, but I did smoke the rounded. And all I can say is it's a very different cigar than what Andre's done with his Maduros, which are more, they're more those cocoa flavor, a lot of pepper and spice off this. This, again, a little more dialed back. It seems like Andre's been doing some more dialed back blends this year. Very earthy, very traditional tasting cigar. Maduro is what it seemed like. So it had subtle sweetness, not a ton of sweetness. It had good spice, but not knock you over. And again, didn't knock you over with nicotine. The construction was phenomenal, considering. I mean, it was phenomenal no matter what. But a lot of times, Paul, the fear I have taking you to the show is Paul syndrome. And when you're in that desert heat, it really is hard. In all seriousness, it's really hard. These cigars dry out so fast. So Andre, even he had them maybe under some good conditions, because I didn't have any problems with that cigar. Very enjoyable cigar. I'd check it out.
What about Tatuaje?
Okay. The interesting thing at Tatuaje, I walked up to the booth, and there's a picture of this on Cigar Coop. I see a cigar, and it's a picture of a cigar. It's called the Tatuaje Halloween series.
I think you should have called it the Tatooine.
What was that?
I think you should have called it the Tatooine.
The Tatooine, yeah. The Tatooine.
Oh wait, that's the desert planet in Star Wars. Never mind.
Yeah, right. That's the desert planet. So when I went into the booth and talked to Pete before John Huber basically interrupted me, he
not mentioned it twice.
That this is something that is being planned for next year. So he put this on display, and the reason why he put it on display is he wants to kind of and this was a little bit of a theme I saw with other manufacturers as well, that they were putting stuff out that is not coming out till next year, but they wanted to kind of gauge the public's reaction to it. But what Pete says with this Halloween series, it's coming out Halloween of 2015, and it's going to only be available if you come to the show and order it next year on day one. So, Pete probably, I'm assuming that decision was made before the show, but very forward thinking by Pete to try to give people, and Stogie Santa was applauding the move, and rightfully so, because it gives people a chance to come to the show. So that was the big thing. The monsters, which, remember when Pete was on the show, he talked about Jekyll and Hyde?
Mm-hmm.
Jekyll and Hyde were on display. So Jekyll's going to be the 2014 monster. Hyde's going to be the 2015 monster. They're going to have dress boxes that, if you put the two together, make a Jekyll and Hyde image.
So they'll be released one this year and one next year?
Right. So Hyde's not coming out till next Halloween.
Okay.
All right. So, or next year, I should say. But Jekyll's what's scheduled for the fall. Now, the interesting thing that Pete told me about Jekyll is the wrapper on that is going to be the Sancti Spiritus wrapper, which he's always tried to keep with L'Atelier, but I think he's in this case there was a good reason he was saying why they made an exception with that. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Like I said, there's some pictures. I think there's a couple pictures on Cigar Coop, and I have some more pictures I'll be putting up on the Stogie feed with that. I think that's a lot what people will look forward to as well.
Is he going to do non-dress boxes as well?
Yes, he's going to do non-dress boxes as well. And it's kind of going to be the same thing, a Jekyll image and a Hyde image as well. Mm-hmm. So, and I have some pictures of those I'll post as well. So it's, again, I think he's just giving people, a chance, not what's new now, but hey, next year, here's what you're going to get as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is that the tattoo line has been extended to a line of 4. So it's when he came. Have you guys smoked the tat? I don't think you guys have
I
smoked
did.
the
No, I
tattoo yet,
smoked the
have you?
Robusto. I thought it was really good.
I haven't smoked it yet.
For $5,
Yeah,
it's absolutely phenomenal. In fact.
yeah. I mean, again, for the price point, you're looking at $5 to $6 depending on the size there. But what he did is earlier this year he came out with the Robusto, which is called the Caballero. He's extended now. He's got a Toro, a Torpedo, and a Toro Grande in there. So again, I'm looking at my notes here. The price points are all between $5 and $6.50. So they're going to be in 50 count boxes. They'll be sold. But again, they're value price cigars, and if kind of along the lines of what Illusione did with the Rothschilds, but a very different cigar. I don't think you can.
No,
You
no.
can. And the nice thing about those, each of the 4 boxes have some pretty neat artwork. They're cabinet style boxes, but they have some individual artwork on there as well.
No, that's a great cigar. I'd be interested to try some of the different sizes.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, I think it's one of the surprise cigar. I mean, it's a very for the value. It's hard to beat that value right now and what you get out of that cigar.
Are there any lines that he's discontinuing?
Not that I know of. I didn't see anything. The big change is La Riqueza and El Triunfo went to 10 count boxes, but he added a couple of sizes to La Riqueza, including uh, the Lancero and a 6x60.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, but I didn't see anything in terms of
So the Lancero
production
from
or
the
sizes even being slashed off the SKU list.
So the Lancero from the sampler pack will be.
That's going to be
production
regularly
now?
available, he said.
That's
And
a
you
good-
guys really
that's
like
a good
that
cigar.
one.
That's a good cigar, man.
I didn't rate it as highly. I got to go back and smoke it again. The problem is I got to buy another Lancero sampler.
Now you don't.
No,
No,
I
you don't.
Now
Now
I
you
can
won't
just
have
wait.
to.
Sweet.
Yep. So I mean, and Latelier was in the booth, so they got a lot of cool things going on there as well. They first of all they have the new Racine, okay, which is that's another cigar you have to be at IPCPR to buy. Same blend as last year. It's going to be a Toro. I'm sorry, not Toro, a Torpedo.
Yeah, I was saying the original one's a Toro.
Right. So
I like
one,
that cigar. I like that
the
cigar a
original-
lot, actually.
Oh yeah.
That was good.
It was one of those cigars. Stogie Santa and I were talking about it. It needed a little time to really find its way, but it did, and I think it was really good there. The other big one, and this probably is going to be of interest to you guys, is the Latelier Selection Special line. All
Yeah,
right,
they
is
expanded that,
extending.
right?
That's going to now they're adding in something called the 38 Special, and the 38 Special is a Lancero, and then they're adding in a Torpedo, we call the Special Torpedo. So now you're going to have, in addition to the Corona Gorda, you'll have that the Lancero and the Torpedo. Plus, there's a Robusto floating around for events, which I think Stogie Sanders talked about on the line.
I've
On
had
the
one.
air.
It's
so
funny-
I think, again, those were on display there.
It's funny.
New
I'm
sir-
I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
smoking the Letelier Lancero in the regular line, the natural
Yep,
wrapper.
that's still there as well.
I got.
Pretty good.
I tried that Robusto. It was awesome.
Yeah, and it was, I think it's gonna be. I'm really kind of curious to try that in the Lancero to see what that's gonna do.
No, that's
yeah.
but you're talking about the Sanctity de Spiritus wrapper on that Selection.
Yeah, it's a higher priming than the original.
Right.
Yeah.
Letelier is.
Yep, that's what. So basically, it's a higher priming. It's got a darker color to it, but it's the same Sancti Spiritus wrapper that he's using.
Cool.
Also from Latelier, Satin Glove is the new Surrogates. It's a box press Churchill using a San Andreas wrapper. So that one was on display as well. I think I did some pictures out on Cigar Coop with that. Also, what they're doing is they're introducing some 4.5 by 38, and this I had before the show on Cigar Coop. 4.5 by 38 5-packs across different core lines. So there's going to be a Latelier Travelers, a Surrogate Cracker Crumbs, an El Suelo Villas, and a Trocadero Ruelas. And so they're going to be these 4.5 by 38s. They'll be put in a paper pack. They're going to have pre-cut heads on them. The one I mentioned, the Cracker Crumbs, is based off the Animal Cracker brand of Surrogate. So they're kind of doing one of each of the lines there. They're gonna be unbanded from what I understand as well, and sold for $14.50. So by not banding them, by not boxing them, and by cutting the heads, I think they've saved a little money on all the avenues there. So
And
that was a busy booth.
another brand we've talked about, Will, is the Brun Del Rey.
Yes. By the way, I talked to the Brundell. They were the first people I talked to because they were right in the front when you came in the show. So if folks maybe haven't heard, Brundell Rey is a Costa Rican tobacco company, and so they make their cigars in Costa Rica. They're trying to get a footprint in the U.S. I think they've had a rough go of it so far for whatever reason, but they really have some good cigars. And what they were telling me is, they have several lines, and they're actually going to focus they're going to kind of focus it around two lines, the premium and gold lines going forward in the U.S. But they have other ones. But they did come off with a limited edition of the premium line, which is called the Brundel Rey Premium Edition, Premium Limited Edition, which I have cigars for you with that.
Awesome.
So I actually gave Stogie Santa his, and I, definitely, and it was good because it was the first cigar I had at a show, and I thought it was really good. It's mild, and I can tell you it's mild because it's got a Connecticut shade Costa Rican wrapper, which is something I've not really seen a lot of. It's got an Indonesian binder, which not a very strong wrapper again, but it's going to give it some flavor. And then the Nicaraguan filler is meant to kind of amp it just a little bit. So they make it in a Robusto and a Churchill, and it's supposed to be a limited run, but I have some cigars for you guys with that, and that's going to be coming up your way.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to them making a splash in the U.S.
Yeah, in fact, I talked to the guys from Cigar Authority radio show, and actually they're really interested in talking more with us, but we could talk about that another time, but they're big fans of Costa Rican tobacco.
Yeah.
And we were really talking a lot about some good things coming out of Costa Rica right now. It's kind of the sleeping giant.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make good stuff. Where was I going to go after that?
I want to ask about the.
Go ahead.
So I want to go back to the booth with Tatuaje and Letelier, because that was shared with my father as well. Am I correct, Coop?
Yeah, they shared with my father.
Now, I remember a little while back, Federal Cigar had a Connecticut wrapped My Father, right? Limited,
Yes.
that was exclusive to them, and I thought that was an awesome cigar.
It was actually off the Le Bijou blend.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So I heard that they're coming out with a new Connecticut wrap cigar. Did you get a chance to learn more about it or even try it?
I haven't tried it, but I did learn about it. So they're doing an extension off the core My Father line, but from what I understand, it's a whole new blend that they're doing off of it. So it's what I understand about the blend. It's an Ecuadorian Connecticut over Nicaraguan Corojo binder and Habano and Criollo filler. It's being launched in 4 sizes there, and they're using a lot of tobaccos now being grown by the Garcias there. But it's the first Connecticut really that's been regular long filler production for the Garcias since they launched My Father's Cigars. So I am curious to smoke that as well. It looked very, very elegant. They had it in a nice glass case as well.
Well, I wanted to hear about, I guess we'll start with Avo and then go into Davidoff and some of the things happening at their booth. Or not.
Davidoff's a big booth, and they have different brands in the booth. As far as what Davidoff's doing,
Yeah.
there were two big things that were there. They added the Davidoff Nicaraguan Diadema Vino.
Yep.
So that's a new size that they launched.
What size is
they
that?
They gave that at the Davidoff dinner.
That's
when
the
we were walking out.
is it a Perfecto, Will?
It's basically a Perfecto. Yeah, it's not quite a Salomon. If you remember the shape, there is a Diadema Fino shape in the regular Davidoff line, and it's similar to the best one. Remember the Avo 85th?
Yes.
Yes.
Very similar to that type of shape.
Okay, so
Now-
is it a larger size like that, like a 5 or 6? Or?
Do you remember the
Yeah.
Diadema Fina that they came out with?
And that's what they based it off of, the Diadema Fima.
Did you ever try that cigar?
I have not tried that.
That was a kick-ass cigar. My father-in-law bought a box of them. They're
Oh yeah, you
since
let me have
gone.
one of those.
I think
yeah.
I gave you my
yeah,
last
yeah,
one.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but I'm interested. It's good size.
Yeah, no, it is a good size. It's going to be It's going to be 6.5 by 50 is what it's going to be.
yeah.
So
That Nicaraguan line, man, that earned a place in my regular smoking rotation. Semi-regular, I should say, because it's a pretty high price point. But I tell you what, it is a fantastic blend.
yeah, no, it is. Now they also have revamped the Primeros lines, which are their 4 1/8 by 34 short smoke, almost mini cigars, so to speak. The catch with that is, so they revamped it into 2 lines. The Primeros Davidoff, the Primeros.
Primeros Nicaraguan,
They got
right?
the Primeros and the Primeros Nicaragua.
Yeah.
So the Primeros is the Dominican blend that they have, and then they have the Primeros Nicaragua, which is branded Nicaragua, but not the Davidoff Nicaragua. Does that make sense? So they're calling it Davidoff Nicaragua, but it's a totally different blend that they're doing.
Oh really?
Yeah. So that's really the big change of that, and they're doing a natural and a Maduro on that. So it was same sizes, but to give you an idea of what the blend is in that Davidoff Nicaragua Primeros, it uses a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper. It uses an Ecuadorian binder, and then it uses a mix of Nicaraguan and Dominican filler. So it's not even a puro. And the Nicaragua Maduro is using a Mexican Sumatra wrapper with an Ecuadorian binder, and again, the mix of the Nicaraguan and Dominican filler. So it's a different cigar, even though it's being branded as a Davidoff Nicaragua.
Gotcha.
Right. So those were the big things as far as what you saw out of the Davidoff. Now, Avo had a lot going on too, even though Avo was not at the show. Avo, the big thing is the release of coming out of Avo's greatest hits. So what they've done is, if you like the Avo limited editions, they've gone back from 2001 with the Avo 75th, and they've put every one of them into a sampler pack.
Except for the LEO 5.
Except for year 5. Now, Hanky said to us the reason why he didn't do that was simply he could not get they didn't have the tobacco, and he could not rematch the blend.
Right.
So, I give him credit on that, because they didn't, I give him credit on that. Don't mess with something that
and everyone says, I mean, you've heard Paul Joyle come on the show and say how awesome that was.
Yeah. But they are going to have the Avo 22 in there, which is probably the second most revered one in there. And what they're doing is there's 14 of them. So instead of the 5, they're putting the Avo 25th in there.
I gotcha.
Okay. There's some line extensions coming to Avo. So the first one is they're adding I know, Paul, you're a fan of the
Avo
XO line.
Yeah.
So there's a Toro size coming out, which I was surprised to see there wasn't a Toro size in that. So that's coming very soon.
Is that
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is that a regular or a tubo?
Regular. It was in a cabinet box.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
I love the XO blend.
Yeah, the Heritage blend is getting a Lancero. Which you don't see Davidoff do a lot with Lanceros anymore.
Just the Millennium, right?
The Millennium is in the Lifen. Now, someone told me, Will, and I don't know if you got any inside scoop on this, that Davidoff's doing away with the Millennium Blend Lancero, as well as a couple of other sizes in that blend.
I've heard that. I don't have confirmation.
I want to say they're getting.
I thought that was already gone.
Are they getting rid of the Toro too, or the Churchill, or something like that? I don't remember which sizes. And someone speculated to me that they might be getting rid of the Millennium Blend altogether. as the Nicaraguan Puro de Oro and some of these new Colorado Claros that are coming out are kind of filling the void. Because Millennium Blend was the kind of stronger blend in the Davidoff line, but now they've released these other ones that I mentioned, right, that are kind of displacing Millennium Blend.
So I didn't hear that, but so one thing that's very clear, though, when I was at the Davidoff dinner and they laid out their strategy, is they are very concerned about not wanting the brands to overlap and compete with each other. Mm-hmm. And maybe if they see some overlap in the portfolio, they're going to address it.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think was real important. Now, I will say this. They told us at the dinner, back to Avo, that there is a rebranding effort that's going to start with that going into next year. They didn't elaborate more on that. So that's interesting that they're going to start changing. They're going to give that brand an uplift.
Interesting.
Yep. Matt Booth had nothing new with the show other than the big payback. So Room 101 was as is. Camacho had the double shock, which is the barber pole.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, Camacho's always done barber pole.
Well, this is going to be
this
in
their
is
Liberty
limited,
lines.
that's going to come out in the fall.
Their Liberty lines have been barber pole in the past, a couple of them.
Liberties, yeah, they've done it with the Liberty. This is going to be outside the Liberty series.
And what is that cigar again?
It's called the Double Shock.
Interesting.
And they're actually going to have them grouped into two. So I don't know if they're going to be selling them two at a time or not. That's a good question I had afterwards to find that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also, there's another new line. There's another Ditka cigar called the Ditka Signature.
Ditka,
which is going to be, unfortunately, in the Dallas Cowboy colors.
Who would win in a fight, Ditka or God? Trick question. Ditka is God.
And then probably the big surprise, and the last but not least, is I tried that BG Meyer, which is Rob Weiss's new line under the Camacho. It's a Nicaraguan Puro, and Rob Weiss is the guy who did Entourage, the screenwriting. That's an excellent, excellent cigar. It was one of the better cigars I had during the week at the show.
I smoked that this afternoon. BG Meyer. Yep. I smoked it this afternoon. Very dark Maduro wrapper on it. I got it on my phone. Look at that, huh? How about technology?
Let's see that.
Yeah, I smoked it this afternoon. It's got the writing. I didn't read what it said on the band. The band covers most of the cigar.
You didn't read it?
No, I didn't. I had a conference call and I didn't read it.
You pay attention on conference calls?
Yeah.
God, I hope my boss isn't listening.
I do, in fact, pay attention on all my conference calls, Mark. But there's like a whole saying on the band. Well, what's that blend, Will? That was good. That wrapper put up some nice flavors.
Yeah, it was an old Nicaraguan Puro from what I remember on that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean I had it as like a $5, but it was a sample from IPCPR. It didn't burn the greatest. I had to relight it a bunch of times, but I don't fault I don't fault them for that.
Yeah, it actually was a Habano wrapper, but it was very dark.
It was very dark. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And they told me they were using a little bit of Amatepe tobacco in the filler, which I think gave it a little bit of zip to it, which I kind of like it. I'd probably say, Paul, you're right. It's based on coming out of IPCPR. It's a $5. It could be a box split because I think the price points are very reasonable. It's like $8 to $9 for those cigars.
Okay.
I was really surprised. And they also have, and this probably is more of interest to you, Paul, there's a short Connecticut cigar called Slackers.
Are you saying I'm a slacker?
So they come in a tin, and they're short smokes. I mean, I haven't smoked mine yet, but they look very nice.
You know what you are? You're a slacker.
Yeah.
Henry Rollins would not be pleased.
So anything else from the Davidoff umbrella of brands?
One more. Zeno has.
I was going to say Zeno, yeah.
Zeno is coming. They've done these regional series with the art from the region. So they did a Zeno New York and they did a Zeno Los Angeles, which I love that Los Angeles one. That's a very underrated cigar. They're now turning their attention to Texas. So that's going to be the next release of that.
Well, what is the one that they released?
Make of Texas.
What is the Zeno they released with the fork and the spoon on it?
I believe that's New York.
Okay. We'll talk about that in the
dining.
We'll talk about that in the next segment.
Okay.
I smoked that one actually.
Yeah. So Davidoff,
apparently they eat in New York, but not in LA.
A lot of exciting things. I really like the direction that company's heading over over the past couple of years.
What about Fuente? Talking about big brands.
I didn't see anything new out of Fuente, and they were very crowded. So I'm kind of going to be relying on some of my other media friends to talk, but I don't think they had anything major at the show other than, and I could be wrong on this, and I was trying to get some time there, and it was difficult. They're very busy. As some of these booths, you just, media guys, we got it. We can't be too pushy or they get mad, so we want to respect them. But I think the big thing is they're really starting to push out Casa Cuba right now. The pre-release, what I did see is the pre-release, Casa Cuba pre-release, they took the bands off, and now they're going to be Casa Cuba.
I gotcha.
There may be a couple of limiteds, and that's what I'm trying to do some as kind of follow-up. There's a lot of follow-up we have to do with IPCPR, and sometimes I'll call in a favor here and there, so I'm still trying to digest that a little better.
Okay. What was your funniest story from the show?
What was that?
What was your funniest story from the show?
Okay.
Or do you want to save it for the? You know what? Let's save it for the next segment.
Oh, you want to save it for the next segment?
Yeah, because we're running a little short on time.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll tease everyone.
Okay.
Alrighty. With that, we're going to take a short break. We ran a little long in that segment. It's a great update from Will. I'm sure you'll continue to hear a little more about IPCPR in the next segment as well. So we'll take a short break and come right back. What's up, Ben? How are you?